Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to join the last panel for today. So I'm Queenie. I'm partner at IOSG Ventures, and I've been actively investing in this space since 2018. And my MEV-related portfolios include Blocknative, CowSwap, EigenFi, and some others. So first of all, I would love to invite every one of you to briefly introduce yourself and what you're building related to this topic. Chang-Wu first.
Hello everyone, I'm Chang-Wu from imToken and the chief science and I did imToken labs in Taiwan. And we did a lot of research like layer 2, privacy, MPC, and also MEV. And I'm also the product lead for Tokenon. Tokenon actually is a DEX aggregator incubated by the Tokenon. So we have a lot of trading every day routed to the Tokenon. So that's why MEV is a pretty important topic for our user. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Tomasz. I've been involved in protocol engineering on Ethereum for the last 5 or 6 years, I think, and with Flashbots working on MEV, starting with MEVDayAsia at the beginning, and then co-designing the MEV Boost PBS solutions for Ethereum for the merge. In the last few months, working mostly on the PBS in layer 2 and short sequencing research and proof of concepts, building engineering solutions for connecting SWAF to L2s, so Flashbot SWAF.
Cool. Blair Marshall again, product manager at Blocknative. My main product that I focus on is called Transaction Boost. And Transaction Boost is a private RPC aggregator with a easy-to-use status API that provides the transparency and observability that wallets, dApps, companies need in order to provide the best UI UX experience for their end users. And our next step, which maybe we'll get into in this panel, is to turn that into some sort of order flow auction.
Hello, my name is Mark. So I'm the co-founder of DODO. So DODO is a decentralized liquidity infrastructure. So we built on multi-chain. As a DApp, we always pay attention to the MEV issue. And for DODO, we also implement private trading features to prevent users for the MEV.
Hi everyone, Eyal Markovich from bloXroute. So bloXroute is involved with several aspects of creating MEV. We have our own relays, 2 of them. We have our own builder line. We have probably the most important thing with regard to MEV is our network, BDN, that enables searchers, enable other builder to success in capturing MEV. And the last thing is MEV protection. So while we are trying to help searcher to capture MEV, we're also trying to help user to protect themselves from MEV.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So since the previous 2 panels covered most aspects of the downstream of the MEV supply chain, so we're going to focus more on the upstream, the application level and the users. So let's talk about MEV protection first. So my first question is, when we talk about MEV protection, I think recently more and more people start talking about private transactions. So do you think it's a best choice? And do you think it's effectively safeguarding the users and truly beneficial to the whole ecosystem?
Okay. I think the answer depends on how do you see the private transaction. So to me, I think private transaction for now is a better choice for the user, but you still need to be very cautious to use it. Because in imToken, we have many order flow routing to our DEX every day. So, I mean, because we have a relay mechanism, so we will help our user to go through the Flashbot RPC or Blocknative RPC to protect from running. But you need to be very careful to set the slippage percentage, because this is the only way you can, control the loads in a limited way. And yeah, and also, I mean, it's not just sending private transaction to the private transaction pool. You need to pay the higher gas fee to the builder, or your transaction cannot get into the block quickly. And this is also, I mean, I think another important factor for the AM trading, because timing is very sensitive on the Uniswap. Yeah.
Yeah, so when we think about the user transactions, or maybe like traders transactions, because users in our case, usually this will be traders, institutional or retail. The private transactions, they make sense to protect you from being exposed in a mempool, but you don't want them to be entirely private. You want to enable some level of conversation between the user, between the trader and the searchers, right? So you want to enable that programmable privacy, and that's what we think is the only solution at Flashbots. That's why we build MEV Share, for allowing users to define what they want to share with searchers, how they want to set up that conversations role. And also that's why we lead later towards SWAV with the confidential data store, where you actually build this access to transactions, but again on the terms of how to build a block according to what users allow you to do with their transactions, and according to the rules of the protocols as well. So you want to have all the rules together and enforced by the protocol. So I think that private transactions for now, it's much safer than that wild west of mempool. But going to, for example, encrypted mempool, you practically block the extraction of MEV and make the markets inefficient.
I guess I'll do the spicy take of the panel and say that private transactions are not a good product as they are today. If you send your transaction privately and you are not a part of one of these order flow auctions, as in your transaction doesn't move a pool enough in order for there to be a backrun, then you become a second-class citizen in the block construction process. You will end up being executed deeper in the block. You'll be executed behind all these bundles, which are first-class citizens. And a lot of times these bundles are doing swaps or executing transactions on the same liquidity pool. And so you're sending privately to avoid the sandwich attack and to avoid the slippage that incurs, but you end up still incurring that slippage anyway because you're behind all these bundles. So we definitely need better tooling, better solutions out there for end users to transact privately.
I like the spicy one.
Yeah. Ow.
In my opinion, I think for the private transactions, so the RPC nodes commit to prevent users' privacy, and but I think for the RPC node, they have the capability and the motivation to extract users' MEV. So I think maybe the private transaction is a good choice, but maybe we need to make sure that it's running in a transparent and open way. Yeah.
So I'm not 100% sure I agree with you, Blair. So let me clarify. So when I think about privacy, I see two options that users have. They can either send private transaction or they can send a bundle. And when I think at least about private transaction, I'm basically thinking about a single transaction. So it's either a single transaction that is being sent private as a private transaction, or it's a single transaction bundle. So when a user sends a private transaction, it's basically just bypass the public mempool, and it arrives to the leader directly, and the leader basically commit not to send it to its peer. And why are user, and by the way, bloXroute today, and we saw in the previous panel, we talked about the Telegram group. We did a major partnership with Maestro. After that partnership, Maestro has probably doubled the number of private transactions. bloXroute today is propagating more than 50,000 private transactions a day, and users are very happy. Why users are not using single transaction bundles? Mainly for two reasons. A bundle cannot revert. So many users, when their transaction is not reverted, maybe it's good for them because they are not paying the gas, but it's lead to uncertainty. What happened to my transaction? I submitted a transaction and I don't see it on chain. So a private transaction, in that sense, it's much easier for the user. They submit it. If it's going to revert, it's revert, but at least they immediately see what happened. And then, with regard to what Blair said, it's really depend on how much you're paying. So if a user is willing to pay high gas price and there's no bundle that is paying more than that, they will get on the top of the block. Now, why everyone are not submitting a single transaction bundle? Because a builder needs to work a lot more on a bundle versus a private transaction. So a builder needs to simulate the bundle to make sure that the transaction will not revert. And because of that, if you are submitting thousands of transactions a day and you want to have very fast inclusion rate, it's a very good tool to submit private transaction today. So from my point of view, actually in the next 6 months, I would not be surprised if the number of private transactions in Ethereum will double.
Cool, thanks. So let's dive a little deeper into this. So Chang-Wu and Mark, you guys are building applications closest to the user transaction data. So it seems you have like huge power here. So I'm curious about your guiding principles and strategies when it comes to designing the products for the users. Are there any specific trade-offs that you must balance, such as maybe user data privacy, transparency, user experience, and partnership decisions, etc.?
Well, it's a good question. So from my view, there are many factors that we will consider for the RPC service. So the first is the stability of the RPC node. Because, I mean, if we send the transaction to a non-stable RPC node, that means the transaction will get failed. And the transaction will get failed, that means your gas fee is wasted. So, I mean, having a stable RPC node is pretty important. So this is the first one principle. And second, I think, let me think. If they can provide more builder lists for us, then it's much better. And from my view, I would like to select the builder. They only capture the profits by background transaction. So this is very important because not every builder they do the background transaction. Maybe some they do the front running or sandwich attack. And this is the builder that I want to avoid. And and the third, I think, let me think. Refund or rebate, just like MEV share, they provide a rebate or refund when you send a transaction to the RPC node. I think this is a very good feature for the user because usually the profits only exist between the proposer and the builder. But if we can share the profits to our user and also wallet, then it could be open another market structure for the whole ecosystem, and then that will make the ecosystem more healthy. And fourth, I think the privacy is also a very important option because just like MEV share, it's MEV share. They provide privacy options so you can decide how many data you want to review for the builder. I think this is the kind of a very cool way to protect our user privacy. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so from my perspective, when we design or implement the private trading features, our motivation is that offer users options to just send the transactions without MEV concern. So I think it's always need to balance within the user experience. For example, so if the centralized solution can offer better performance but lacks transparency, so from my perspective, I think that our principle is that we need to make sure our product is transparency and decentralized. So we prefer to connect multiple solution providers and provide this choice or options to users. And we need to do much more informational work. Make sure the users know that what happened when they just open this switch, or so what this choice exactly means. And also, I think for the further development, we plan to connect to more MEV solutions. Our thinking is that we need to share more profit, the MEV profit to our users, since the users are the source of MEV. Yeah, so in the future development, I think we just plan to provide more options to users. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's talk about the profit share later. Yeah. So now we've got the requirements from the applications. So I'd love to hear from Eyal, Blair, and Tomasz to hear how would you develop your product to better address the needs from the potential partners here.
Well, I think that long term, it's all about allowing every participant, all the builders, to try their vision to compete with others. And I've seen that Flashbots has always been a market builder, initiator of the market that is for the benefit of user. So when we look at the times of miners, we thought that, okay, that there is a risk that there'll be OTC trades, that the miners will be dealing directly with the large flow providers and the users will get nothing out of it. And then the same, we thought that MEV Boost was with solo validators not having access to the order flow and MEV extraction. And each time we were building a market to allow for competition, and for the competition not only for particular implementation, but also competition of ideas. So we're saying this is the template, but you can build it slightly different, and we'd like to see how the market evolves. So we were providing the education for that reason as well. So we were opening research sessions to say, look, this is the set of problems that we identified. This is the potential set of solutions, but bring other solutions to the table. And there's so much space for building businesses around it. And it's great always to welcome, whether it's wallets or infrastructure providers, searchers, builders, and so on. And long term, we want to continue that path. So building Suave is with this idea in mind. So what we have in the market now is shared sequencers, is the wallets, is DEX aggregators. You have 1inch, you have Uniswap X. You have L2s coming to the table, and all of them trying something slightly different, and it's still a bit of like a kettle of ideas, and we want to allow to create this market for competition of ideas. And then practically you establish interfaces for everyone to connect for benefit of user, either via paying user or via user experience. Because I think that sometimes when we talk about MEV, we focus a bit too much about the numbers, that, how much we pay back to the user, how much we pay back to retail institution. But you can provide value in many different ways, right? You can provide value by best execution, fastest execution, or simply the most comfortable UI for retail.
Yeah, I guess I would take a slightly different approach to this question, in that if you look at the data that's out there today for MEV rebates, it's pretty small. If you look at MEV blockers, data is available, it's public, and I think it's something like 400 ETH on 6.5 million transactions to date. And those are pretty small numbers. It's still a success for sure. And I view the end goal is really about the end user and getting them the best possible price. So my first advice for any user who is transacting would be to use some sort of DEX aggregator, some sort of cow swap. But if you're going to go the route of trading some shitcoin, for lack of a better word, that isn't really available on a DEX aggregator, then I don't think that private transactions are serving the end users the way that they should be. If you do a small transaction, like $100, and you use MEV blocker, that $100 is just, you're not going to get a rebate from that. You're not going to move the liquidity pool enough. So that private transaction user, the real rebate that they could get is just by incurring the least amount of slippage possible. Like, that's the best that they can do. And so the only way that you can incur the least amount of slippage possible is by being as high up in the block as possible. And currently there isn't a good mechanism for that type of user who is trading some sort of small dollar amount. They don't create a backrunning opportunity, and so they don't have much of a chance to be high up in the block. And so there's this other category of MEV rebate, which is just slippage protection, or maximizing, minimizing the amount of slippage that you actually get. So to me, that's a understudied area for MEV rebates.
So my answer is basically in 3 different areas, and that's what bloXroute is focused on. So number 1, we want to enable user to easily send private transaction. And for most users, that's basically by providing very fast RPC that protect their privacy. So the way we do that, we have our own free RPC, but really the way we believe is by partner with many providers. So we currently have around 20 partner, node operator, and project that integrated with our RPC. And a user from their perspective doesn't even know that they are sending transaction to bloXroute. They're just sending transaction to an RPC that is protected by bloXroute. So this is number 1. Number 2, and that's in line with what Blair said, it's really about maybe less than 1% of the private transactions that are generating background arbitrage. So for the user, the most important thing is inclusion rate. This is the most important thing if they want to lower the slippage and if they want to get to the block as fast as possible. So we are using our network to get a private transaction and get that transaction as soon as possible to the right places in order for to get the best service to the user. And number 3 is on that 1% of transaction where there is an opportunity to capture arbitrage. bloXroute has its own arbitrage or background arbitrage. It's called Background Me. It's a service that exists for more than 2 years, even before the merge. It has a different approach than MEV share and the other solution, because unlike the other, we are basically telling our searcher, if there is an opportunity, this is what you have to do with it. This is the amount of percentage that you have to pay the builder or the validator. That's the amount of revenue that you can keep for yourself. This is the amount of revenue that you can send, or that you have to send back to the user or send back to the project that we are working with. This is the amount of percentage that you have to pay the service provider like bloXroute. So it's less of an auction, it's more of a project. And it's a different approach, and so far it's working fine for us.
Great. Since you guys already mentioned the profit share session, so let's talk about the MEV redistribution. So I believe it's still like an experiment. There's no certain like standard or anything like that. So it's a very open area. So in your opinion, what's an ideal redistribution model? Like who should get the redistribution value, and who should have a say in this matter?
Oh, okay. I don't have a specific answer, but I mean, but I can give you an example. So when a user sends a transaction to do the swap, then usually it might be background by the searcher, and then they will lose some money. But I mean, if we this kind of situation only exists between the proposer and the builder and also searcher. But if we can rebate or refund some of the profit to the user, then it might be good because the user might save some gas fee, and just like Robinhood, they can do zero fee trading. And maybe in the future, if the market is going big, then we can provide a zero fee market to for trading fee. So yeah, it's really open a new market structure for the trading. Yeah.
I think it's all about the attribution of MEV in the transaction. So sometimes it's very clearly a user MEV. So I mean, if we're talking about transactions, someone signs the transaction and creates the difference in the market. If I'm trading, then I want that MEV to come back to me because I signed it. Without me, that MEV wouldn't exist. Someone extracts it and they demand some kind of very minimal payment for their service. So we want the arbitrageurs, traders to be on the markets. We want to pay them that minimum that will keep them being actively involved. But the user should take probably like 95 or 99%, even more. Some of the MEV will be not really attributable to the users. It might be liquidation, so it might be something that comes out of the Oracle updates from the external world, right? So the chain is in some state, but the market prices around the world keep ticking, and the oracles arrive, and you can have a lot of extraction just based on that Oracle update. And then what do you do with it? You can distribute it to all users of the protocol or all users of some particular DeFi protocol, and this probably will be fair. And again, you don't want to pay it out to the Oracle operator or to the searcher, because really the value is from the protocol itself, from the liquidity existing there. And this is all for the short-term redistribution, right? So we have the user, we have protocol, so you say we pay them what appears now. And I think recently I was on a panel where I started realizing that there is also the long-term question of you want the long-term value for the protocol users, which means that you may want to also redistribute some of the components to like liquidity providers, LPs on the AMMs. And not always that can be dealt with via the AMM design itself, so it might be somehow embedded into the protocols of redistributions of MEV. We want to maximize probably not only short-term user experience, short-term user value, but a long-term protocol health that delivers value long-term to the user.
Yeah, so I'd say that we're reaching a point now where there are lots of entities that have this order flow, like wallets and dApps and the trading bot, the Telegram bots. They all have this order flow, and so we're kind of at this point where it's like, what do we do with this order flow? How do we make this transparent and open, and how do we stop the dystopian vision of all these entities just selling their order flow directly to a builder, profiting directly off of that and being top of block? And so my hope is that, as an ecosystem, we can come up with some open protocol that is transparent and that comes to some sort of market-driven approach and some sort of market-driven answer to the question of who can or where does the value actually need to go. I think it's pretty hard to just say directly that X% goes to this and X% goes to that. I think it really needs to be something that's open and something that evolves over time, and the market ends up deciding.
Yeah, so I don't have an exact answer for the what's the exact percentage that each component need to get within this value chain. But I would like to say that at least I think that each component need to be get rewarded in this process. And the thing need to be emphasized that I would like to see that the whole process should be transparent and the open market. And also user, as I mentioned before, so users play a really important role in this ecosystem. So I agree with Blair that it should be a market-driven mechanism. When we just award more to the users, then they will just choose the more profitable options for them. Yeah, and yeah, that's my.
So. In general, I'm very much against the let's pay back the user as much as possible, 95, 100%, for two reasons. usually the way that I think about it, if a user is creating an arbitrage, usually the user made a mistake. For example, if a user, instead of using 1 inch or DODO, is using some other Uniswap V2, the user made a mistake. To capture on a $100 opportunity, to capture 95 and give it back to the user, for sure that user will make the same mistake again. So if we want to think about making sure that in a year from now, our user will be more sophisticated and will stop making mistakes, we should stop as a rule to send back arbitrage back to the user. So that's the first point. The second point is a lot of the solution they are thinking about let's capture the arbitrage and give it back to the user, 99% of the arbitrage back to the user. But if there is an arbitrager, one searcher that has an alpha, and that searcher knows that is the only one that is going to capture the arbitrage, and it's a $100 arbitrage, that searcher is going to keep 95 for themselves. And the user is going to get 99% of the $5 that is left. So coming with a solution that let's think about an optimal system that gives back to the user 90 whatever solution, in my belief, it's not a good design. So that's why that, as I said, in my view, it should be a very simple rules, even for a searcher. This is the amount of arbitrage that, if that's the amount of arbitrage that you're going to collect, you are allowed to keep 20%, 30%. The searcher are putting their capital, they're putting their liquidation, they're taking the risk. It's very important that not all the value will go to the validator and not all the value will go to the user. Validators, on the other hand, they're not doing anything. Or a builder. Why should they get such a huge profit? So exactly from the same idea, we believe that it's going to be much fair if there are going to be rules. Everyone will know exactly what they are getting, and it's very easy later to look on the transaction on Chen and seeing if somebody is not behaving.
Yeah.
If arbitrager needs 20% in the long term, that they're making a mistake.
So users, you got a lot to learn. So my last question is about some new market trend. I'm curious how it's gonna affect the MEV space. So there has been a recent hype on intent-based infrastructure and applications. So do you believe in an intent-based future? And how do you think it's going to affect MEV space? Chang-Wu, would you like to go first?
Okay. I think this is a good question. I mean, with the DEX involves as the time, also at the beginning, I think in 2018, imToken just launched tokenon. Then we use a mechanism called RFQ. So that means the market maker the private market maker can quote a fixed price to the users. So there's zero slippage. But with the emergence of the AAM like Uniswap, then we start to have some kind of situation like MEV. So, but with more people know how the DEX design going, and then we find that if we can make sure that the MEV profits can go back to the user or distribute between the searcher, builder, and the proposer, then we might have a healthy market structure. So that means, I mean, for the intent, I mean, if we can just send a transaction to tell the searcher or the builder how many amount I would like to trade, and then they will help me to find the best route and with the best price, then it's perfect for the user. And for the user, I mean, nowadays, they are struggling on the DEX, operation, because they need to know what is the price. and what is the price of frustration, and how do I set the gas fee. So this is a kind of, very annoying work for the users. So if we can have an intense kind of infrastructure or design, then that might be very benefit for the desk space.
Having intent is such a wide topic in a sense that we can think of how sophisticated the user is, as a retail user, institutional user, and then in the end it's a user experience question. It's like, if I say that my intent is exchange, $1,000 worth of ETH for some other coin, then it's relatively simple intent, and how well executed it is, it's what's contributing to that. It's infrastructure quality and what kind of execution the operator can get for me, or how the entire protocol is designed. So sure, I can say that it's great that I can express intent, it happens, but it means that my user experience is like, I prefer simplicity. If I go for intents, I prefer simplicity. If I start to define exactly the steps of what I want to do, which means that I start to capture a bit of complexity and I want to compete in the market. So I'm no longer wanting intents because I don't want to delegate to someone else the capture of the intent value. That the fact that I can simplify UX so someone captures the value of delivering me that simplicity of execution and efficiency. So I think different users will want different things, and sure, you can always think of an intent of I want to make money, and then there's some kind of AI on the other side that executes. That's why I say the topic is wide when we talk about intents.
Yeah, I was given the 1 minute warning, so I'll make my answer quick. On intents, I do think that the application layer has the best opportunity to reduce the amount of MEV that exists in the space. And kind of going back to what Eyal was saying, I think it's at the application layer that we can stop those users from making those dumb choices by swapping on Uniswap v2 low liquidity pool. And if the intent-based architecture is the way to get through something like CalSwap or similar, I'm all for that. However, there are some downsides to intent-based architecture as it is described today. It can lead to a lot more off-chain centralized services, infrastructure, and so we're relying on these kind of centralized entities to actually execute upon this intent. There are the solvers of the world, but a lot of the intent-based architecture out there does not have any sort of decentralized approach. And so to me, it kind of comes back to like this, the question we have with sequencers is like, how are we going to get decentralized sequencers? We're going to run into the same topic with intent-based architectures. How do we get to decentralized intent-based architecture? So I feel like that'll be a hot topic this coming year.
So I think intent-based trading is a new concept, but it's not with a new technology or innovation. I think from the application level, it should be conducted by the AI-driven trading. But I think it's not easy to implement at this stage. And also, it's not only happen in the DeFi space, also maybe it will emerge in the CeFi space. And from the infrastructure level, I think either account abstraction or the MEV create an extra memory pool just before the transaction get into the Ethereum memory pool. I think there's a potential for the intent-based trading happened in this memory pool, since it's a pool for the user's intent. Yeah.
So I have only 10 seconds, so I'm going to say, I do believe that it's going to make a big difference. We have a MEV. We have an MEV event tomorrow. I'm going to talk about what we are actively working on with partners on the intent. So if you are free, come tomorrow. Free advertisement.
Thank you. I guess that's all about today's panel. Thanks for sharing and thanks for listening.